Despite recent reports suggesting that Star Trek 4 is still in the works, fans of the franchise are understandably skeptical. It's been 7 years since Star Trek Beyond was released, and the fourth Star Trek movie, which has been associated with J.J. Abrams, has been plagued by a series of setbacks. Paramount announced a 2023 release date, only to later retract it, and several high-profile directors, including Quentin Tarantino, Noah Hawley, S.J. Clarkson and Matt Shakman, have been linked to the project but ultimately left due to creative disagreements. As a result, Star Trek 4 seems to be stuck in development limbo with no clear resolution in sight. Over the past 6 years, Star Trek fans have been treated to a wealth of new content through a renaissance of television shows. This resurgence began with Star Trek Discovery, which followed the exciting adventures of Starfleet's top talents. However, it's crucial to recognize that none of the currently airing or recently concluded Star Trek TV series would have been possible without the tremendous success of the rebooted Star Trek movie franchise. The movie franchise, which began in 2009, took a bold approach by offering an alternate origin story for iconic characters like Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, portrayed by Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. This movie revitalized the Star Trek brand for a new generation. The franchise produced 2 successful sequel movies, Star Trek Into Darkness in 2013, which cleverly reimagined elements of The Wrath of Khan, and Star Trek Beyond in 2016, which ventured into entirely new narrative territory. Even after 7 years, fans are eagerly awaiting another installment in the beloved reboot Star Trek movie series. Recently, writer-director Lindsey Beer, in a discussion with Kalinda's Perry Nemiroff about her upcoming prequel movie for Pet Sematary Bloodlines, provided some insight into the status of her long-awaited follow-up to Star Trek Beyond. While it appears that the project is still in its early development stages, Beer conveyed a sense of optimism regarding the possibility of the fourth Star Trek movie finally coming to fruition. In her conversation with Nemiroff, she hinted at the likelihood that fans can still anticipate the continuation of this cinematic journey in the Star Trek universe. It's still on the tracks. I love that project, and it was another one that I had to hop off to direct this movie, and that was a hard thing to do. But I love that everybody involved with that project. By the way guys, don't forget to give it a thumbs up for this video, and for more updates, subscribe to our channel. Despite more than 7 years of waiting, there's still a strong and eager fan interest in the prospect of Star Trek 4. This enduring enthusiasm is partly due to J.J. Abrams' success in casting a talented group to portray younger versions of the iconic Star Trek, the original series characters. There's a genuine desire among fans to witness the return of actors like Chris Pine as Captain James T. Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Spock, and the entire USS Enterprise crew in the context of J.J. Abrams' alternative Kelvin timeline. Now, as time has passed, these characters would be in a middle-aged phase of their lives, but both Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto have expressed their willingness to reprise their roles and continue the adventure. They've indicated that creative differences have been a significant obstacle to the realization of Star Trek 4. Despite these challenges, the desire among fans and the willingness of key cast members to return keep the hope alive for another exciting journey in the Star Trek universe. The last director linked to Star Trek 4 was Matt Shakman, but he left the project to direct Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four in 2022. Surprisingly, no replacement director was named after his departure. Notably, Jonathan Frakes, known for his successful direction of Star Trek First Contact and his extensive experience in the Star Trek franchise, expressed his interest in directing Star Trek 4. However, Paramount didn't seize this opportunity to tap into his expertise. Despite Frakes' track record and deep connection to the Star Trek world, Paramount has not yet utilized his talents to move the project forward. There is hope that, with a tentative conclusion of the Writers Guild of America strike and the looming threat of a strike by the Screen Actors Guild America Federation of Television and Radio Artists, Paramount may recommit to advancing Star Trek 4. The approaching 60th anniversary of Star Trek in 2026 could serve as a catalyst for renewed dedication to bring the much-anticipated film to fruition. A recent report from Variety, which discusses the increase in TV and movie production following industry strikes, suggests that Paramount's next Star Trek movie could potentially be a reboot. Several big movie projects could see pre-production resume quickly. Paramount is hoping to have writers fine-tune scripts for its planned reboot of Star Trek and its adaptation of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Variety's use of the term planned reboot of Star Trek adds a new layer of complexity to the ongoing development struggles of Star Trek IV. The use of the word reboot raises questions, as it might not align with the intention to bring back J.J. Abrams' cast, including Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. This is because the interest in a fourth Star Trek movie primarily stems from Paramount's research, which indicated that there is a substantial audience desire to see Chris Pine's Captain James Kirk and the reunited USS Enterprise crew embark on another big-screen adventure. In standard film industry terminology, a reboot typically implies starting afresh with a new cast and often an entirely different storyline, potentially unrelated to the Starship Enterprise and its crew. If the plan for Star Trek IV indeed involves reuniting the original Kelvin timeline Enterprise crew, then the term reboot might be a misnomer. In this case, a more suitable term would be a relaunch, indicating a continuation of the existing narrative with the same characters rather than a complete restart. The choice of terminology is important because it sets expectations for the fans and the industry regarding the direction of the next Star Trek film. On the other hand, Star Trek IV can't repeat Wrath of Khan's story of old age and death. To make Star Trek IV compelling and distinct, it should avoid retelling the storyline of The Wrath of Khan, which revolved around themes of aging and facing mortality. This classic Star Trek tale was somewhat diluted when it was remade as Star Trek Into Darkness. Therefore, for Star Trek IV to be engaging, it should venture into a fresh narrative that explores the challenges of old age and dealing with the past regrets. While it can draw inspiration from Into Darkness, it should strive for originality. An interesting angle to consider would be to delve into Captain Kirk's role as a father, either by introducing the character of David Marcus, who appeared in earlier films, or by creating a new son for Chris Pine's Kirk. This approach would provide an opportunity to explore uncharted territory within the Star Trek universe and allow for character development while steering clear of retreading old ground. A potential storyline for Star Trek IV in the Kelvin timeline could involve the return of George Kirk, who was presumed dead but re-emerges. This concept was considered in a previous version of the film. In this scenario, an older Captain Kirk would face the challenge of fatherhood and grapple with his own mortality. George Kirk died during the USS Kelvin's destruction before he even reached the age of 30. This means that a middle-aged Jim Kirk, who has lived longer than his father ever did, would confront the idea of outliving his parents. This dynamic could provide a compelling narrative for the film, forcing the Kelvin timeline crew to deal with the concept of mortality and their own aging. It would explore the unique challenges and emotions associated with facing the legacy and family history of the characters while bringing a fresh perspective to the Star Trek universe. Well, there you have it. As the Star Trek franchise continues to navigate its path towards Star Trek IV, there are certainly intriguing developments and challenges ahead. What are your thoughts on these potential directions for Star Trek IV? Do you prefer a continuation of the Kelvin timeline or an entirely fresh start? Share your opinions and expectations for the future of Star Trek on the big screen.